Yeah, I must have, I must not have the rights to do that.
Must not. I think Allan is starting recording.
Yeah, sorry.
Greetings,
okay.
everybody.
Here he is.
There we go. That's a good thing.
Sorry I'm late, or sorry I'm on time,
Yeah,
whichever it is.
I gotta try and get me back.
Let me fix my video.
I lost mine.
There we go. Yeah, I've gone from hating OBS to not being able to live without it.
Mike Olson is still screen sharing. I can't see you.
Oh, you have missed nothing.
There we go.
Well, guys, welcome to Pzoom. It's Saturday, the 18th of something, March, I think. Welcome to everybody. I want to welcome a special guest we have with us today, Stewart Wood from the UK.
Hello. Hello. How is everybody?
Hi, Stewart.
Stuart and I got to spend a fascinating couple of hours together the other day, and I thought he might like to pop by and meet the rest of you guys. He's very popular YouTuber in the UK, macro photographer, very different take on the business than me, a bit less murdery than me, I think. But we had a great conversation. I learned a lot, and we're probably going to do it again. But I thought today's conversation was going to be interesting and far-reaching, and I thought he might enjoy sitting in on that. So welcome, Bud. Welcome, Jan, Mike, Stu. Let me see. Who else is here? Patrick's here. Ingolf's here. Greetings, Ingolf. We're going to deal with three pieces of business today before we get into just general chit-chat, unless you have something in specific that you want to talk about. If you have come with a question, now's the time to let me know, because that gets priority. All right, that kind of clears the way for things. Before I forget, Amy, can I talk to you when we get done briefly before I forget? Okay, just otherwise, if I don't say that now, I'll completely forget about it and just disappear at the end. So the three things I want to talk about are three very special and unique ways that members of this community are helping the community and me and the channel to do a better job. And I wanted to call them out and give you an update on each of the projects that they're involved in, and in the process open up a conversation on something that may at first seem tangential to macro photography, but at least in my case is most definitely not tangential to it, and that's going to be 3D printing and its role in macro photography. But that's the third thing I want to get to. The first thing I want to get to is a project that's been going on since as long as this channel has been going on, and that is my I don't know how many degrees of freedom it now has, but it's about 7 degrees of freedom positioning system that has been on hold for the last year because I've been too busy to do much with it, but has been revitalized with the help of Mr. Robert Wester, who through his connections with industry has been able to source for me the parts that I wasn't able to get. And we are now approaching the point at which I'm going to have a prototype here fairly soon, I believe. And this is going to be a high precision remote controlled positioning system for use on high magnification rigs. So I couldn't be here at this point with it were it not for Robert stepping in and helping, and I'm super grateful to him. He's also, by the way, the guy who's made it possible for us to have prizes for our competitions. So I'm excited about that. The second thing I want to tell you about concerns the saga of the microscope, which I thought was finished. I thought the saga was over yesterday when I took delivery of the last 2 adapters in the system. But it appears the problem is just now getting into full swing because everything's assembled and it still doesn't work. So I thought I'd do 2 things today, was show you the piece of equipment that Bud Parrott donated in order to get us to the point that I can show you stuff under the microscope while working. I acquired a surgical beam splitter a year ago, and I'm going to show you some pictures. Actually, that will probably be the easiest way for me to show you what's going on. I'll let me see. This is probably the best way to show you. Maybe that isn't going to open it up, is it? Hang on. Oh, wait, I didn't import them. That was silly. Okay, not to worry. So this is my microscope set up for use. This is the surgical beam splitter. The difference between this, you can't see that, can you? It's not big enough, right? Sorry about this. I didn't get everything prepared quite as planned. I was running low on time. Okay, so you can see it now, I think. This is the microscope and the camera, and it is mounted on a new camera tube, photo tube here. It's an articulated photo tube that allows me to position the camera wherever I want it. Unlike the old camera tube, which was fixed, this gave a beautiful picture with a DSLR mounted right on the end of it. And no, I beg your pardon, with a mirrorless camera mounted right on the end of it. It would give a great picture, but it would take all of the light from one of my eyes, which meant that I had no depth perception with the other eye. So when I went to do something delicate to demonstrate, I'd end up ripping something off or piercing something. So it's been a constant issue. The beam splitter was going to fix this, and it does indeed allow me to retain binocular vision. What it doesn't do, though, is focus on the camera, and I am at a loss as to why. It won't focus with the mirrorless camera. It's too far away. It won't focus with a DSLR because it's too close. And I'm confused by it because I didn't think there were any optics in the photo tube, just the prisms. But apparently there must be something in there, because the photo tube that I had, the photo tube that I have appears to be about twice as long as the combined size of this photo tube. I'll show you. I'll show you from this video, hopefully. Hang on a sec. Nope. Plan B, my photographs are just kind of doing whatever they want to do by themselves. I'll get that going in a minute, but the difference between the two is dramatic. I'll show you. I'll just take it off. The reason I'm bringing this up in your meeting is in the hopes that somebody has experienced this problem. I wrote a long post to put on Rick's site on PMN, but never posted it because it looked like the ramblings of a madman, which it probably was at the time. It was a bit too convoluted. But I think I understand what the problem is now, and I'm hoping that somebody here will be able to shed some light on why this is causing a problem. But anyway, that's where we are. We've got all the parts. I just can't make them work. This is the splitter. This is the tube. This is the old system. I don't know if it looks to you like one is longer than the other, but I suppose given the angle, maybe that's not the case. Maybe they are about the same now as I look at them side by side. But anyway, we couldn't be here and I couldn't be doing this part of it were it not for Bud. And we're going to get this thing fixed one way or the other in the next week or so. I'll figure out why I can't get this parfocal and we'll deal with it from there. So,
Allan?
Yes, please jump in.
I ran into an article, I think, on the photomacrography.net about setting up compound microscopes with cameras, and this person suggested putting a bellows between the trinocular port and a camera to achieve focus. Might that be something to consider?
What I've done is I've used a series of helicoids, trying to find the right combination that will allow me to. Now, I should be clear here. I can focus both of the cameras on the subject, but with the DSLR, I have to have the microscope so low I couldn't get an instrument under it. And with the mirrorless camera, I can only do it at high magnification. At low magnification, it won't focus. So I can get them both to focus without using helicoids. With helicoids, I can get them to focus in a slightly wider range. But the problem is this: it's supposed to be parfocal eyes and camera at all magnifications throughout the range. But instead, I have to pick a magnification and then move the microscope to get the camera in focus, by which time the eyepieces are hopelessly out of focus. That's the problem. And finding that sweet spot where both are in focus is, well, that's what the optics is supposed to do. And I've talked about this to pretty much everybody I know who's knowledgeable on this type of thing, except one person. Somebody I met over on PMN who may be able to help. I will speak to. But yeah, if anybody has any thoughts, let me know.
Have you contacted Leica since you have all the parts now?
Oh no, I haven't actually. Not since I contacted them when I was trying to build my own, and they wouldn't even talk to me. But they might now. Good point. Probably not, but I will definitely give it a try. Yeah.
They may have an adapter of some sort.
They may have a what?
An adapter of some sort that you need.
Oh,
you know,
there is a company in the United States. The guy makes adapters for Leica. They cost $1,000 or thereabouts, but he can adapt any camera to any microscope with these tubes that he makes, and he custom makes them. So I'm sure that he could figure out a solution. And maybe that's something I'll end up doing down the road. But I'll talk to Leica for sure. And I might just call that guy and ask him, see if he wants to help out a starving artist. Possible. Any other input on that before we get to the main course? Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Last night, when I hooked this up, by the way, I was parfocal with the DSLR. It's just when I hooked it up about half an hour ago, I no longer was, and I have no idea what's going on there. But it's all very perplexing. I didn't say hi to Rick. I didn't realize that you were there, Rick. I'm terribly sorry. Good morning. Afternoon.
Good morning. I have been hiding off in a corner here.
Well, you're actually in the dead center.
I dropped in and
That's
It
what it
depends on
is.
the layout, I imagine. I dropped in to see if anybody has any questions about stereo, in particular about retouching from slabs. And I wanted to let people know that in the synthetic stereo page on my website, there is now a section that describes the workflow for slabbing with intent to retouch. It is long and complicated, of course, but at least it is now documented.
Have you done any retouching in Photoshop?
I have from time to time done retouching in Photoshop. The difficulty with retouching stereo is you have to do consistent things to both views. And it is rather difficult to pull that off. If you fail to get things consistent between the two views, and especially if you introduce a shift while doing a clone, then what you end up getting is pushing a patch of the subject either forward or backward. So it results in this incredibly obnoxious depth defect.
I had pretty good results with the with the healing tool instead of using the clone stamp, and seemed to work fine.
Yeah, I tried using the healing tool and it looked like it would be okay for pretty isolated stuff, but it did not take care of some of the defects that I would have otherwise wanted to fix. So that's kind of on the edge.
Thanks.
Does
The
anybody
one
else?
thing the one thing I know that does work well is that retouching from either a stack selected or the extreme variant of that, slabbing. Retouching from stack selected or slabs is a real nice way to fix transparent foreground, especially on big blocky things like antennae that are floating far in front of things like highly textured thoraxes.
It has made the biggest difference in my photography, learning these retouching tricks for this. I'd been put off by stereo because of the amount of transparency and the seeming impossibility of fixing it. Not being able to. Why is it exactly that you can't retouch from individual source images, right?
Well, there's two answers. One of them is because the software does not keep track of the shifts that are used for individual source images. And so it doesn't actually have the information it needs to be able to figure out how much to shift the source to properly line up with the thing you're trying to retouch. That's an implementation detail. And I have extended the code so that in special cases that actually does work in my development version. When I tried to use it, part of my debugging process, I discovered that even though it technically works properly, it is still formidably difficult to use correctly because of the problem that if you use the brush to copy in any information that is not from exactly the correct source image, that amounts to an artificial shift. And that amounts to pushing that patch of stuff either forwards or backwards, which is a ghastly defect for my eyes. And so I'm not really sure at this moment where I'm going to go with that particular piece of in-development code. I'm pretty happy with the retouching from stack selected or slabs. I am not happy with retouching from original source, even after I got it to work correctly in some cases.
Well, that sums it up nicely.
Allan?
Yes.
Question, when you guys did the 3D thing, there were some specific things that you checked, and you said that advanced, you needed to do other things. I don't think you ever touched on the advanced aspect of that. Is that something you're going to do?
On the advanced aspect of what?
In Zerene, you had all those boxes checked, and you said to uncheck them if you were going to do something advanced.
Oh, no. That was during the final stacking of the slabs. When you're doing the slabbing operation in stereo and you have created two batches of slabs, one from one perspective and the other from the shifted perspective. When you take all of those slab outputs and you stack them in the final step, you need to uncheck those boxes so that it doesn't try to align them again. That's what I was meaning. I want to show you something briefly that kind of sums up what Rick just said about this technique. This is an image of a stereo pair that I did and promptly gave up on because of the amount of transparency. Now you don't really need to view it. This is spectacles viewing anyway. I just want to show you how ugly the transparency is, and this is what ruins the photographs. I gave Rick the original images, and he did the edit himself using the technique he just described, and that's what the end result looks like. And that is dramatically better. I don't know if you can see how the claw now is complete and three-dimensional and has no transparency at all. This is what I am aspiring to be able to do with this technique. It really is frustrating to know that you can't rely on Photoshop in post, going in and moving bits around or using the healing tool, because it is, at first I couldn't even see it, but when you paste something that's in the wrong Y axis and it's floating in the middle of space in front of the bug, it doesn't look very realistic. But this was just a fantastic job. It made a good picture out of a throwaway. So it's worth it. If anybody's going to be doing the competition in June, get practicing. It's going to be fun. All right. Thank you, Rick, for explaining that. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Stewart, have you tried any of this stuff?
No, I haven't got the patience for that stuff. Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, for the last 2 years, I could barely get a video edit done without my PC crashing out. So it might be something I'll look into, later on this year. But I'm just settling into the new computer, so we'll see. So.
Yeah, a computer is something that is rather important in this process. I don't think I could have done it with my old computer either. You need something that's reliable. But it's great fun. The 3D images are super. I just wish there was a better, easier way to view them. Has anybody seen if the 3D glasses have gone back on Amazon yet? I think some people had looked for them last week and there weren't any again. That's the one thing about it, the viewing, that is problematic. All right. Well, here's what I want to cover next, and we'll take this wherever it goes. But I'll tell you a story, if I may, if you would indulge me. I like to build stuff, and I started doing that not really by necessity, just because it was fun. I used to make furniture when I had a bigger shop in my old house. Now I just have a little workshop, and I guess you'd say I tinker, but I tinker with purpose, and the things I make work. Probably don't work as well as Graham's things, but they work most of the time. I'm going to show you, give you a quick look around my workshop, if you'd like, if I can get the video to work. It's not a very impressive workshop. In fact, it's an awful workshop, but it's my workshop. So let's see if I can get it to run. Yeah, okay, so you'll see part of it anyway. It's really just a corner of the garage that I've taken over, but it's fairly well equipped, given that it's just part of the garage. I've got plenty of tools. I source all my raw materials cheaply I get wood from pallets and metal from printers and broken things, and I work probably more in metal than I do in wood, but I make a lot of the gadgets and things that I use in my photography, and I enjoy it. It's good good way to relax and have fun and learn stuff. And there has been one thing that has been a sticking point for me in the modern era. I have 3 projects that are currently on permanent hold because I lack the skill to make the metal or other material parts that I need to do them. The positioning system is one. I'm at the point where I can't go any further unless I can make some little brackets, which I haven't been able to make yet. The other is a rail, an actual focusing rail that's got a few additional features that's going to be really nice when I can get it to go, but I need several brackets for that. And then the third thing is a microscope that I might be trying to make, which is going to rely solely on stuff that I couldn't make because it's too precise. So this is all about the 3D printer business. I have a 3D printer. It's ancient, and it was stored underwater, I think, because when it was donated to me, it was a solid block of rust, and the electronics are fried on it too. So I wasn't able to get it to work. I started to replace the parts, but realized I had to replace literally all of them, and it seemed like just that would be overkill for an old printer. So it's been on hold. It's not a priority, and the things that I can't do, friends have done for me. Like Bud has made all of my lens hoods, which has been a huge help. But it got me thinking that one day that would rise to priority, so that I could finish up the projects that I couldn't otherwise do. And it was into this kind of holding pattern that Jan, one of my biggest supporters of the channel, came forward and offered to fund a 3D printer for the channel. Incredibly generous offer. And the first thing I thought of was, well, I need to get with the Patreon folks and get their input, feedback, ideas, thoughts on how best to go about sourcing one, what to look at, what not to look at, what your personal experiences may or may not have been with 3D printing, and have a discussion about 3D printing and photography, because I know I'm not the only person. Well, I know several people in this group who are 3D printers and macro photographers. And I thought it would be interesting and helpful for us to talk about this tool that's becoming more and more accessible, more and more affordable. And I think more and more of us are going to end up using it. So I'd like to talk about software, CAD programs, and filaments and materials, and what you can expect if you're new to this, and that type of thing. I did some research because I wanted to know what I was hearing from you guys, and I've read fairly extensively in the last 24 hours on the various uses and applications for 3D printed parts in photography, and they're a lot of the things you would think of. Clamps and diffusers and parts for rails. That was the other project, by the way, is my camera slider for the video. I've got 2 of them built, but lacking the thing to hold the camera. So that's another one. And boxes to put triggers in for keeping things dry outside, that type of thing. What is your experience And we'll start there just to see if anybody has any preliminary thoughts on the whole concept of 3D printing. Is it worth it? That's the big question. Is can you save enough money or create enough interesting stuff to justify the expense of a 3D printer, or would you be better off just getting the parts pre-made? What do you think? But I know that you're going to have some thoughts on this, and as a relatively new 3D printer, I'd love to hear about your experience.
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a friend who I consider mentor in the business. He's been into 3D printing since its inception, and Joe Prusa was in Czechoslovakia. He was the one that first came up with it. And so I personally have a Prusa, the MK3, whatever. And
the i3 MK3?
Yes. And so far it's worked flawlessly. I went the extra step and put mine in an enclosure because it's in a dusty environment, and I didn't know how critical it would be. So I'm not doing any nylon or anything else that has noxious fumes, so I don't have to deal with that. But I'm using the PLA primarily, but it's fun to invent things. You know, form follows function. And if you need something like, I needed to put a background behind the bug in my vertical setup. So I printed off some, some old backgrounds that I purchased in the past for composites and stuff. And you can get them right behind the bug, but I wanted a better way to, I wanted an articulated arm so I could move it closer or further away, whatever I needed to do. And so basically I designed one and printed it. And so, it's hard to put a value on just having fun designing and inventing things.
Which software do you use, Bud?
I've been using the 3D. I like to learn Fusion 360, but I seem to have a mental block. I don't have the vernacular. I'm afraid to, I've looked at a whole bunch of videos and I've tried it, and I think I just need somebody to lead me through it. My friend hadn't had time yet, so he's going to do that. But right now I'm using Tinkercad because you can do basic functions with it, and you've got all the basic geometry, and it's pretty elemental. It's like being in the second grade when Fusion 360 is probably, early college. So I'll get there, but it's not been easy for me.
Does Tinkercad does that communicate properly with the slicer in Prusa?
The Prusa slicer works great. You just take an STL file out of Tinkercad. Once you've got it, you export it to STL. You take that file, you open it, and it opens directly in the Prusa slicer. You hit slice now, and it takes about 3 seconds, and then a little bar comes up that says export G code. G code is what the Prusa printer uses to define where things are in space, and you plug it in, you put the little SD card into the printer and say print, and it basically does it for you.
One of the parts that I want to make, in fact, one of the prototypes is going to need to be made of nylon, and that printer does work with nylon, right?
It will, yeah. It makes some fumes, so
So does everything I do in this place. Can't be as bad as my contact cement experiments. So good. Hey, well, where is the material that you normally use, that you make the hoods out of? Is that hollow or honeycombed in some way, or is it solid?
The actual filament is solid, and it goes through at about 215 degrees through the hot nozzle, which liquefies it, and then the printer does a CNC and builds whatever you ask it to build. So, but you also have to have the bed heated, because if you have a differential in temperature, it prones to warp. So if the base, which maybe is an hour colder than what's being actively done at the top, all of a sudden you've got this differential in temperature and it causes problems. So the bed itself also has to be heated, and Prusa does both.
Does it have a feedback system? Does the processor know the relative temperatures of the hot end and the bed?
Yeah, it shows the temperature of both on the display. I don't know whether it could detect if something was too cold or not.
Last question on that. Do you think that material, if you were to print it at its maximum density, where would it, what other materials would you compare it to in terms of rigidity and resilience? Could you 3D print threads with it?
Yes, you can. I'm not sure, it's a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. And so if it's finer than 0.2 millimeters, you might have a trouble. And the other thing is that, having reviewed some YouTubes on there, they actually round off the threads a little bit so they don't grab, it keeps them from wearing too quickly. So when you look at a blown up image of the threads, you can, just like in Photoshop, you can expand or contract. They contract it a little bit to make it where it's not quite so tight. And then they round off the actual sharp edges of the thread itself, and reports on YouTube says that works great.
Well, that's what they do with metal threads too, so that they don't bind.
But as far as hardness, the PLA, that stuff I've made is pretty hard. I don't know what kind of poundage, but you can make the things thicker. Instead of a 2 millimeter wall, you can make a 5 millimeter wall. Bulk doesn't matter in most instances. And the other thing too is you can change the interior. In other words, when my 3D printer prints something, it does kind of a honeycomb in the middle, which is structurally rigid. But if you start to sandpaper stuff down, all of a sudden you'll get to the innards. So I think you can actually make the interior solid or more solid. There are a bunch of different honeycombs. I just use the default, but I think you can create increased rigidity from that. Some of the other things have flexibility. I think the nylon perhaps has a little more flexibility than the PLA, but if you sturdy up the PLA, it'll hold most anything.
It's not the rigidity I need from the nylon. It's the slick surface, like what's that other plastic that's so slippery? That's
Teflon.
Teflon is one, but there's one that's less poisonous. They make bearings out of it. I can't remember what it is, but Delrin, yes, whoever said that. 10 points. And you make it to the bonus round. Yeah, Delrin, yeah. I don't know if that's even something you can print. I was looking at some of these industrial devices out there, and they are incredible. They print aluminum, for crying out loud. And they printed a house somewhere, and they had this 3D printer that was squirting concrete out the end of it.
That's in Phoenix here.
Huh?
That's in Phoenix here. It's in Phoenix.
Oh, it's in Phoenix? Well,
Yeah.
That explains it.
I heard
they
they
just
just
said that in the article.
Just 3D printed a rocket ship.
Yeah, I was going to say rocket ship. The thing is massive with steel.
That sounds like Mike Canfor's voice.
It is.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry I didn't see you there.
I have been listening. Yes.
How was it? How does it print steel, for crying out loud?
Just look it up. It's got, I have no idea, but you see it in time lapse. They show the whole body.
It makes my little experiment sound a little less exciting. But there you go.
Well, I had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, Paul. Go ahead. You started.
Well, let's not forget that Wallace Neff, an architect in LA, was spray manufacturing dome houses in the 1950s with spray concrete.
Allan?
Yes.
One of the things you can do with the PLA to make it slicker is acetone. You put a little acetone on a rag and you wipe down the outside, and it just lightly melts it, and then make it as slick as you want.
Permanently?
Yeah.
So I had a question on this subject.
Yes, sir.
What if you just didn't want to take the plunge because you're doing other things? And has anyone explored the different services available? It must be hundreds of them where you just, submit your drawing, or do they have ones where you bid for it and you get like 10 places look at it and you pick the bid you want? Anyone done that with services?
I have used both, and recently, as of this morning, have bid for one on Fiverr and one on a service locally that does all kinds of printing, not just 3D printing, but they do industrial printing, hobby printing. If you printed more than about 4 parts, you could buy a printer for what they charge, and their turnaround is like a week. So yeah, it's very, very expensive. But because these things are so slow, I mean, they're faster now than they used to be, but it's just the kind of project that would suit my workflow, because I can turn it on and I'll be busy until it's finished doing other stuff.
You would think like some of the bigger hardware chains or whatever would store a machine and make, have you come in, you get your Home Depot stuff and pick up your part.
If it wasn't so intensive for time, I guess they would, but I mean, the machine's tied up. I think these services, they actually batch the jobs so that they're printing more than one job at a time, but it still doesn't sound like a very good business to be in when it takes 6 hours to make a print. How long does it take to make what would a 7x7 cube take, Bud, if you used every inch of the bed?
Over 24 hours.
24 hours. See, I can cut one out of wood in 10 minutes or aluminum in, 24 hours if it's aluminum. I've got only.
I've got some questions.
Yes, sir.
How big are these printers?
They are, well, my friend Chris out in Colorado, he's a motion control photographer, and he has 3 or 4 of these printers, and one of them is as big as he is, that prints all of these fancy materials. So it's big. It stands on its own legs, and it's probably 3 or 4 feet across in a square. I think the ones that I'll be looking at are the size of Bud's, which, what would you say, Bud, the whole footprint is a couple of feet square?
Yeah, it would fit in a 2-foot cube, probably.
Yeah, 20 to 22 inches.
Sorry?
20 to 22 inches, roughly.
It would make it the size of the vertical rig, say, thereabouts. So that's not bad. That's a fairly small piece. I mean, I've seen plenty of people mount them underneath units, underneath shelves, or in cupboards. I don't know if that's safe.
I would struggle to fit it in here, I think, unless I get rid of the bed.
It's I think a symptom of living in a wealthy country with lots of space is that I just take for granted the fact that almost all my friends living in Europe, I say, well, you just put it in the corner. Well, there isn't a corner.
Yeah, there isn't.
The corner's where the bed is, and
I visited America in 2010, and I was amazed by the size of their houses and the space, and the road I had to cross. And I said to my mate, I said, we can't cross a main road like this. And he said, it's not a main road, this is just a standard road.
Yeah.
If I was to show you a Google view of my street, you'll sit there and go, how the hell do you live there? You wouldn't even get one of your cars down here that you have in America.
One at a time. That's how you get down them.
Yeah.
It's a bit nerve-wracking for me to go back to England, actually, and and drive around.
And the other thing is, I mean, you got to ignore all of this behind me, because what a lot of people don't know is this is just a corner of my bedroom. That's the space I was allocated by the wife. So fitting something like that in would be quite difficult, I think.
Well, you've done a great job, because I tell you, looking at your videos, it looks like you're in a big modern studio, and I know how good that looks on camera.
Mm.
But it doesn't take much room. So when I'm in a big hurry, I can clean up just the part of my house that shows on the screen, and everything else can be left alone. So,
That's what I do. Everything that's on, because we're macro photographers, yeah, there's always stuff on your desks,
Yeah,
right? So when
yeah.
I have to go to record a video, I'll just pick it all up and throw it on the bed, just leave it there, and then it looks nice and clean, and then bring it back over once I've recorded.
Oh, now everybody knows our secrets.
Yeah,
I would like to hear from Graham, and because I know that this is a man that has all the tools, and probably can be selective about when you choose to use 3D printing, right, Graham?
Well, I guess so, but I'm talking blind at the moment because mine's due at the end of next week. So I can't really comment apart from saying that I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. But I think I said to you last week that I looked at the pusher one, and in fact I had it in my cart, and then I did some more research and I opted for the Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon, about 4 times faster, bit more expensive, but it seems to be a quantum leap in technology. In user interface, I guess.
I looked at that one this morning and was captivated by it. The video they have on the setup video, out of the box video, was really impressive, because it looked like it was shot in real time, and it looked very modular. Which one did you go for?
I went for the X1 Carbon, so that's the one with the enclosure and the stack of the automated feed, multiple feeds, so you can change color should you want to automatically without stopping and refeeding.
It has 2 heads, does it not?
It has a single head, I believe, and it pulls. When you finish, it chops it off, squirts it out, feeds a new one in all automatically, so you can do a bi-color or whatever 4-color print without changing anything should you so wish. But that was not the reason for me. I think it was the fact that it was very quick, supposedly very good quality in terms of the print output. I just couldn't wait a day for the prints. A quarter of the time seems much more appealing to me.
I don't know anybody who has that printer, and I've only just started doing a bit of research on it, but it certainly looked impressive. I wonder if I still have that video. No, I don't. I took it down. The device certainly seems to print a lot quicker than anything else that costs under several $1,000s. Can you say roughly what yours cost, Graham?
Yeah, it's about £1,500.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of money, but I have gone for the sort of the one that does all the bells and whistles. So integral camera and lights and all the stuff, and remote control and interface, and you can view the thing being built, and indeed record it in time lapse and all that sort of thing. So I just thought a few extra £100, it might be worth doing that.
Do you happen to remember, Mike, what machines Chris has? Because there was a couple that he was really speaks highly of.
I don't.
I don't
I remember him talking about the Zerene thing, but not the printers. No, sorry.
He has printers that print carbon and print everything up to metal, but not that. But that's not the kind of thing that I would aspire to. And I don't, bells and whistles are not that important either. But the ability to print more than just PLA would be important. But even that wouldn't be a deal breaker, because I can always buy a piece of nylon and machine it to spec. So there's always that. There are several things that sound to me like cons to having a 3D printer, besides the expense. One is the learning curve. Has anybody who has a printer experienced this to be a significant sticking point? I mean, how long does it take to really get comfortable with it?
I can talk about that a little bit.
Yes, please.
I bought a cheap kind of a Prusa clone probably 5-6 years ago, and it took a good year of fiddling with it. Part of that was the quality of the printer. It was an Anycubic, but I learned a lot because I had to tweak it every time I wanted to make a print. That died, and I bought the Prusa Mark III, and I've been running that for 3 or 4 years now. It's not too terribly complicated, especially for a group like this that's doing macro. It's really just a few variables that you need to deal with, and if you have good software and a reliable printer, it's not that bad.
What software are you using, Larry?
Well, first, there's 2 pieces of software you need. One is to design the part. And there's a lot of options, from Tinkercad to Fusion 3D, which is what I use. I mean, my background is in CAD management and for an engineering firm, so I jumped right to the complicated one, right?
Cool.
Tinkercad drives me nuts, but for most people, it's a good place to start. Okay. The thing I like about spending more money on a printer, if they're good, like the Prusa, is I cannot print something for 9 months sometimes, I'm busy, do other things. And then I need to print something. I fire up my Prusa and it works just like it did when I used it the last time. That was not the case with the Anycubic.
What do you think the cutoff point is? I mean, it's an impossible question, but I mean, these days they're getting cheaper, but there is probably a line that you wouldn't want to cross.
I'm thinking, I mean, I've heard a lot of good things of the Sovals, which are kind of improved knockoffs of the Ender 3s, which are, I think, about 250 nowadays. I think if you want to print something other than PLA, you should look for something with an all metal hot end. Because so the ones that have the PTFE tube that goes all the way down to the nozzle, when you print higher temperatures, that can degas, something you really don't want to have around.
Okay, so all metal hot end.
Yeah.
And is that considered a high-end feature or a luxury feature?
No, not usually, but it's one of the places that the cheaper clones save money.
Got it.
The other is on the reliable end. So like with the Prusa, I can turn it on and print right away. With the other one, I had to tweak the levels of the bed, and I had to adjust my first layer height, and and even then I'd get some wobble, and my vertical was not stable, and it was just tweak all the time.
How much of that tweaking do you do with the Prusa?
None.
Concur.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's worth every bit of what I paid for it over the other one that I had, simply because I can turn it on and it works.
What are you making with it?
I make mostly repair parts. Hang on a second. This is one project.
I do love repair projects. I bought a Dyson vacuum cleaner for $1, at a boot sale last week.
Looks like you can't.
And I plugged it in and turned it on and realized why it was $1. It made a noise that is so obnoxious and screechy, but it sucks. So I'm going to find out what it is that's broken and fix it, maybe with a 3D printed part one of these days.
So
Sucks
this
in a good
thing-
way.
this here is just a little piece that I made. And that fits a, what is it, 1/4 by 1 inch lumber.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I can make a cube.
Oh,
And I needed to print some nylon. So I designed these, put some sticks in it, right? And then covered it with the sheet film, the heat shrink film that we use to cover our windows.
uh-huh.
And when I print nylon, I set it over my printer.
Oh, why?
I make, it holds the heat in because
Oh,
nylon
okay.
likes to have a warmer environment.
So
So I
the enclosure I got for the Prusa does the same thing. You can watch the temperature go up
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
and it helps stabilize it.
So the parts won't warp,
So
which with PLA, you don't really need to worry about so much.
just with the nylon.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, some of the, anything, ABS would also be one that's, I also printed some, essentially ABS, but for outdoor use. I did some boat parts. I had to do a trim piece for a shower that we put into a place, just to make the things fit nice.
Some of these come in an enclosure. Is it that for this kind of practical purpose, keeping the temperature up or whatever? Are the pre-built enclosures as effective as the one you made, or is it better to make one?
Way better, way better.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at buying the one from Prusa, but it's a bit pricey, like most of their stuff.
I own it. It's really nice.
I'm sure it is. That's the one I want. But I had to print the ABS and nylon before I could wait to get that.
Are there any of these companies that are relatively new or underdogs in the market, just getting started, but have a good product?
That Bamboo Labs is brand
Bamboo.
new, right? I mean, they've only been, I don't know, Bud, have you been watching it?
I haven't.
Seems like that's the other thing about people who own Prusas. They just like, well, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. It works.
That's neat. It just works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go down, turn it on, plug in the card. It works.
I mean,
It's amazing.
That is super appealing. I mean, that's why I have an Apple computer for sure. But yeah, I was one of the strategies that occurred to me this morning was to, reach out to the manufacturer and see if they were interested in cutting me a deal in exchange for some exposure in video. But yeah, they just probably take one look at my DIY stuff and decide that they don't need that kind of exposure. But we'll see. I'll reach out to them.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yep. And it's been I've been surprised many times. Well, this is fascinating. Let me. I've got a couple other questions I wanted to ask. With the Prusa, which seems to be the one that most people have experience with, how often do you find defects in your pieces of work that cause you to start over again? Is there a percentage that you can expect, or is it? I've heard people used to in the old days talk about half the bits they made they had to throw away.
Usually it's an error in measurement or concept or design, and especially with the reliable printer. When the first one, I'd get stuff fail all the time. I had lots of half printed parts.
The other thing you have to do is make sure that each part has a base. Some you have to turn upside down because you have to understand that as this thing goes or up, all of a sudden you've got this shelf and it just doesn't know how to print in midair. So you have to turn it upside down so the shelf is down and the foot part is up. And then you
Oh.
have some small, if you're doing something round or that, the same thing. So I'll put a 0.5 millimeter little plaque underneath it to act as a base, because if it breaks loose, then you make a bird's nest, because the printer keeps printing. It doesn't know that the part is free and gone. And
How? Sorry.
So anyway, a stable base, and you clean the bed off with an alcohol swab, just like you were getting ready to give somebody a shot. You just rub it down. I'd usually do it after and then before when I'm going to print, and I make sure everything has a base so that it adheres adequately. Otherwise, it'll break free and you'll ruin the print.
How do you know that your print has gone haywire?
I use Ring camera, and so I can look at it on my phone from anywhere.
I use a Wise camera, same thing, cheap camera that I can look at from my phone.
I would
Yeah.
never have even thought of that.
Yeah, the camera hooks into the Wi-Fi system of the Ring doorbell, and you can just pull it up like you would any other camera. So
That's brilliant. So it's really not an issue then. I mean, the likelihood of the printer making an error, I take it is pretty small then, and you're going to catch it before it uses up all your wire, right?
that's correct. You just have to, there's a learning curve about how to get things stuck to the base. You have to make sure that each of these things has a good footprint or it'll break loose.
And you can usually tell that within the first, I don't know, 2% of the print.
Correct.
How?
Once you've just from your experience, you can see that it's staying stuck. Depending on the filament, sometimes you can actually see it start to lift up.
Let's say you built a quick release type clamp with two pieces that were 3D printed that had a metal insert for a bolt. Would you put your D850 on that thing?
Probably not. Maybe with a leash.
and 3 pillows.
I think it probably would not a nylon would be strong enough.
I mean, I do trust it quite a bit. I've hung some other stuff, but not unattended for sure.
Yeah.
Not if I didn't think I couldn't catch it.
I don't think any of my applications would be that. I mean, I would. It's really just for those intermediate parts that hold things in place that I'd need it. Okay. They were most of the cons that I had listed. Maintenance was one last thing. Any experience with good printer, bad printer maintenance? I mean, is there a big difference? Something to look for?
I've not had to do any maintenance. I think it recommends you put a little oil
Just
on
had 2 beers.
the
I
screw.
had that one the other day.
Well, that I can do that maintenance. How many beers? Oh dear, that's so funny.
I haven't had to do much I mean, if you can keep them dust free, the dust gets on the rods and the dust gets in the bearings. That's usually, unless you buy a cheap one, then you can have motors that fail. You can have hot ends that fail.
I've read that they
replace
recommend
nozzles.
keeping them in a bag or under a dust cover.
Or an enclosure, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that'll be where that maintenance will have to come in. Depending on what filament you print with, you may have to replace a nozzle, which is, besides being a little scary because you got to warm the thing up and then handle it. You may have to replace a nozzle, but I haven't replaced this one in 4 years. So it depends on what you print. If you print in carbon fiber, you're probably going to have to print or replace it faster. But that's not hard and it's cheap.
You would go. You'd swear by that printer that you have, that you think that's quality as good as you're going to get for the money.
Yeah. I think it might not be a good choice if you really want to learn fast how 3D printing works. there's something to be said for getting a cheap one and twiddling with it and tweaking it, and you learn fast.
Yeah. I
if you
learn
really want
fast,
to figure
pretty
it
much.
out.
I learn fast anyway because I'll be a motivated learner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to think about that. But there's too strong. Well, I'll tell you, at least everything I've heard has been in favor of the two printers that I had thought were probably the best bet. Have anybody ever heard of Ender?
Yep.
Do they make good machines?
They seem to be the most popular. I've never had one.
Chinese company, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, one of the things to consider is if there's a local guy that can help you if things go awry. You know, somebody that can help you with maintenance or help you fix the things that. You know,
Yeah, maybe the guy that fixed my car.
Has anybody looked at their library? Sometimes libraries have them.
Oh,
The
they
library.
have printers.
Yeah.
Do they let you sit in there for 24 hours and watch it? I doubt it.
No, they have somebody that watches stuff. But
I
the
don't.
other thing to do is to try and work up a relationship with the local high school tech instructor. So like friend of mine, school, small town, probably 25, 30,000 people. They've got 10 printers in their lab, in their automation lab.
Oh, I don't think we have that many people. That is, we
But
don't
you
have
could
anywhere near
maybe
that.
work out a trade of services type thing with. I mean, they're looking for projects sometimes, quite often.
That is a thought. It yeah, that's worth calling. They've got a big modern high school, so I don't know. Yeah, they'll probably run checks on me and would ask me to stay several hundred yards away from children, but it's worth asking. I know that there's a maker space downtown, but I think you've got to have some kind of degree to get in there. I don't understand the way that works, but okay. Well, listen, I'm not going to take up all of our time. This has been hugely helpful, and I've got a lot of valuable guidance from you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and finish all my research, and I'm going to put together a brief report that I'm going to send out to my Patreon followers and just have you look it over, and if there's anything on there that you would add or take away, let me know. And otherwise, if I don't have any feedback after that, I'll submit that to Jan for his consideration, and we'll see. It's very much going to be used for the stuff we do. You'll remember the cross polarization video. That would be one good example of something that we would be able to do in style in the future. So yeah, let's take 5 to do whatever you need to do, grab a coffee or whatever, and we'll reassemble in we'll say right just before 1:15. Oh no, well, yeah, well, in 5 minutes, and we'll pick up where we left off with some photography stuff. Sound good? 5 minutes.
Right. Stewart,
Yes.
you still around? Okay.
Yeah. I'm shutting down my NAS. It's just finished doing a backup.
I watched the video with you and Alan. It was very, very good. Thank you very much for that.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Quite good.
Well, we did the video. We recorded it Wednesday, and I was saying to Alan that I wanted to get my video of the redesign of the office out before he did his, which was going great until I recorded it Thursday and then realized I'd blown out the audio and had to re-record it again. That was a bit of a stressful, that was, I tell you.
I was curious how many pet spiders you have.
I only have 2 at the moment, actually. I cut down the numbers during COVID because there was no point having lots and lots of spiders because it was quite hectic to like feed them all. Because the idea was, you know, I'd have people come around, photograph them and that, but you know, no one could come around during COVID. So I cut down the numbers, and now I only have 2. But I'm thinking the spider shelf is a little bit empty, so I might invest in a few more.
What do you feed them?
When you first get them and they're, you know, little baby spiders, you feed them fruit flies, and they're typically flightless fruit flies that you get from any reptiles. Yeah, they can't fly. It doesn't make them any less irritating because when you open the bottle, they just go everywhere. Yeah, so you know, after you've fed the spiders for a session, you're constantly going around, you know, slapping fruit flies that are running around on your desk. But then when they get to a certain size, you can start feeding them green bottle flies, and you just order them off the internet. I do. You can just go to a fishing shop, get the maggots. You can feed them the maggots if you wanted to, or let them turn to casters, pop them in there, wait for them to hatch, things like that. But I honestly prefer to monitor their food intake, so I prefer to hatch the flies myself and then put them into the enclosures. Yeah, they're a lot easier to handle once they're an adult, though. I can tell you that. Yeah.
Will they feed on larval flies?
Yeah, they'll literally, if it moves and they can grab it, they'll have it. As simple as that. So you actually have to be careful what you feed them, because you don't want to put something in there that could potentially damage the spider by fighting back. So crickets, I don't put crickets in because they can be nasty little things. They can. So you got hoppers like locusts. You got the mealworms, flies, maggots, any of that type of stuff will go in there. And generally, a jumping spider will take down anything that's twice the size. So if it's got a nice, juicy blue bottle fly, yeah, they'll love that.
How often do you feed them?
Every 2 days. So yeah, every 2 days I'll just throw in a green bottle fly. Monitor the situation, because you can instantly tell if the spider will want it or is hungry, because as soon as the fly goes in there, it starts to watch it. You can see the spider actively hunt it. But if the spider just sits there and doesn't do anything, I'll take the fly back out, because you know we don't want fly buzzing around there for 2 days till it drops dead of starvation. And it's quite funny.
The spider.
Yeah, it's quite funny as well when you're sitting there and you work, and all of a sudden you hear a fly go absolutely nuts, and you turn around and you go, "Oh yeah, the spider's got the fly," because the fly's going nuts.
Have you ever fed it black soldier fly larvae?
No. I generally stick to stuff I know. But the one thing I know that I definitely won't do is feed them insects from the garden, because you don't know if they've been sprayed with insecticides or anything like that. So I honestly think that's why my first spider died. This was before I did the channel. I had my first spider, and I only had him a few months, and he just dropped dead. And as it turns out, because I was catching flies from out the garden, feeding the spider, and it turns out that they could have had insecticides on there. They could have had anything on them, you know. So now I got a nice source on eBay where I constantly order green bottle flies from. He does next day delivery, and they're only like, I think £2 with free delivery. You get like 100 of them, which when you've got just 2 spiders, honestly, you don't need more than 10 of them, you know. But it's next day delivery. It pops through the post. You know, I'll separate a couple of them, so about 5 or 6 casters into a separate box. The rest of them go into the fridge, so they chill out, and then I hatch the flies, just throw them in there when they come out.
So they're alive. The flies. Yeah, keep them alive.
Yeah, the spiders won't eat anything dead, because it actively has to be moving around. The spider wants to hunt. Yeah, and I really want to capture it on video, I'll be honest with you, because my Helis Diardi one, he jumped from the one side of the enclosure to the other side of the enclosure, grabbed the fly in midair, and just dangled from the top of the cage while he's got this fly in his mouth. It was really fascinating. A bit morbid, but
yeah,
fascinating. But like I did say to Allan, I am doing a more in-depth care video for the channel soon. I've just got to get everything together.
Do you happen to have any information at all? I didn't ask you this when we talked the other day,
We do usually go off tandem, don't we?
we have a way of just wandering all over the place in these conversations, but it was
I think
fun.
the next time we do a video, we need to write out a script.
Yeah, we'll have a script. I did not take a sentence out of this video, and I'll send you the link. I'm putting it up on YouTube later today, I think. But the question I am asked most often is people will watch one of your videos and then come to me and say, where can I buy jumping spiders? And I have no idea. Do you have any sources in the US, or does your person over there ship them internationally?
Well, nobody ships them internationally because it's too dangerous.
Oh.
If a seller ships a spider and it dies, they get crucified on the internet, so it's just not worth the hassle. You know, the best place to start is you go onto Facebook and you type in jumping spider group in your local area. So if you're in Florida, don't put we could put US, but there's a lot of groups, you know, but you start out locally. So you go jumping spiders group in Florida. Now the key is no one is allowed to sell live invertebrates on Facebook. So the group is about information. Okay.
Right.
And then inside there, you'll start to learn who are breeders and who are keepers. Then once you find a breeder that has good reviews, you just contact them with a PM, or usually they've got a website. Pop on there and you can just buy whatever spider they have available. But you have to be quick, because the regals, they're quite easy to get hold of. But any other species, as soon as they're advertised, they're gone. They're literally just gone. Yeah, so I mean, some of the breeders in the UK don't even bother advertising them. They're just literally PM their regular buyers to say, hey, I've got this species, and they've gone instantly. You know, the breeder I use, I can just PM her and go, what you got in? She'll tell me she's got this, this, and this, and I go, what? I'll have that one, that one, that one, and I'll just pay. And the key to a good breeder is they won't ship them immediately if the weather's not good enough. They've got like scheduled windows of where they can ship the spiders.
So that's what, 2 days a year in England?
yeah, probably, yeah. But it's like now, if I was to order one now from my usual breeder, it wouldn't get shipped till next week now because of the weather. So they have to keep an eye on the weather. But generally, I'm not having any issues when you find a good breeder. But
have you ever thought about breeding them yourself?
I have, but oh man, they have like 100 babies a turn, and they can have 2 egg sacs, so that's upwards of 200 babies. And then when they get to a certain size, you've got to separate them, or they start eating each other, and then you've got to have them in these little bottles, individual ones, and then come feeding time, you've got to put in a fruit fly in every single. Oh my God.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of work.
I mean, I pay £20 a spider, and that's a lot of work to save £20 a spider, which I usually buy every 6 months. So I've got various ages of the spiders, because a few years ago I made the mistake. I was like, I'm going to do workshops. I'll buy, I think I had 6 spiders that I bought all at once, and they was all the same age. So you can guess what happened then, can't you? They all dropped dead at the same time.
Oh, they did.
In the space of 3 weeks, 5 of them dropped dead of old age. So now, every 6 months, I'll just buy 2 more spiders. So 2 more spiders, and then they're all various ages. That way, they're not molting at the same time. If one doesn't want to play because he's hungry or horny or anything like that, I've got another spider I can pull out. Because they do have their own individual characters as well. There goes my earpiece.
Yeah, you were talking about how you let some of them just wander free because they're not particularly aggressive, and they just sit on the shelf.
They're not aggressive. They just sit there, and like I said, as long as they're fed, they don't really go nowhere. But you do have to be careful. You don't, because they're native to your area, so you're okay. I have to be careful though, because it is illegal to let them go. So you just got to keep an eye on them, make sure they're nesting or camping where they are. I've only ever done it once. I'm too scared to do it again, I'll be honest with you.
When you were talking about the fact that you wanted to see them, in their natural habitat at some point and photograph them, it got me thinking about how many jumping spiders of different species that I had photographed. Now I'm an indoor photographer most of the time. I mean, I when I go outside to take pictures, it's for fun. But I do rather like jumping spiders, so I'm always on the lookout for them. And I went back through my Lightroom catalogs and added up, as long as I wasn't making a mistake and that these were the same species, just different colorations, I'm guessing I found about 30 different species of jumping spider that I had
there is a lot.
There is a lot. Regular travels.
I got a funny story about that. I mean, a few years ago, we was outdoors doing a video, and I'm learning the wife to do like documentary style filming, because when we first started, it was a case of, oh, let's do a video here. You turn on the camera and you do your thing. And doing it that way, it's great for YouTube, don't get me wrong, but you miss a lot of action that goes on. And one thing that we missed, and the cameras weren't turned on for this, is I'm just going around the track trying to see, oh, what can we photograph next? And I spot a little black jumping spider, and I'm gone. I'm right in there, right? I'm like, I've never seen the species before, so if I see a new species, I'm in there straight away to try and get a picture. So I get my camera, I literally jump down on the floor to get this shot, and an old couple that was walking past thought I fainted. And they came running over going, oh my God, are you okay? Do you want me to call an ambulance? And the wife was like, I didn't answer him because I'm too busy trying to get the shot. And the wife was like, oh, no, he's just photographing insects. He's a macro photographer. And they're like, oh my God. it was quite funny, because it's like, you can get a bee land on a flower, and I'll be like, oh, set the camera up there, we'll get a shot. Or then you might have a grasshopper or butterfly, and I go, I'll set the camera up there. I see a jumping spider, that's it, I'm gone. That's why the wife needs to learn to keep up, but we are lacking on the equipment side when it comes to that thing. So
tell me about
I'm all for like a cinema rig, but the wife isn't. She wants small and easy to use, all automatic. And I'm like, no, I don't want automatic. I want the colors to be correct. I want the focus to be correct. So we kind of you bump heads then. We do. We're like, I want to have this big cinema rig that's got the monitor on and all that stuff. And you got all the audio and everything's nice. She just wants a simple iPhone that she just run around with.
I don't blame her. She needs to get one of these these DJI Pocket 2s. They're the best thing. She'll love that. It doesn't weigh.
I bet she would. She did. She had a go at one of the photography shows, and she's like, I want that, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want full frame. I want 10-bit color and color depth and stuff like that.
You'll be amazed how incredible the color and the quality of the 4K picture on that tiny camera is. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You had said that one of your goals was to capture crab spiders, and they are I mean, in a photograph.
Photograph, not capture.
We have them, we have so many crab spiders of so many different species on basically any flower bed. If you sit there long enough, you'll see crab spiders hunting. Yeah. They're very, very common over here. How rare are they over there?
That's the problem. I did a little bit of research since our talk on Wednesday. They are not rare. I feel like it's a decline in the insect population in this area that I'm in. And the reason why I think that is when I first started YouTube, I was just a studio-based photographer. And I always wanted to take it outside and just do stuff outside. I was like, for the first video, I want to go somewhere where there's lots of action. So we're not going to go out and fail to be able to get a video, because then when you first started YouTube, I'm sure you've gone through this where you've had a video that fails, it just puts you off and it's like, oh, you spent 5 hours outside and you've overexposed all your footage, which we did do on the first one. I was able to manage to recover it. But where we went, there was this little pool, no bigger than my bedroom, and there was no word of a lie. There was hundreds of damselflies there, and they was all breeding. You had all different colours. Now, if I was to go out there to the same location now, the pool is still there, but you will not find any damselflies at all. They're just gone. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but there is a large shopping centre that was built next to the nature reserve, and I've got to do my research before I start calling people out, you know, but I feel like that's maybe had an impact on the environment. And I was going through some of my old pictures, and I've got crab spiders. The picture's no good because I wasn't very good then, you know, but I got crab spiders from locations I've been to. There's just none there now. And it's what led me to, I don't know if I said it on the video or not, but last year I only spotted one jumping spider all season.
Really?
And yeah, honestly, one jumping spider all season. And you know, when I think back to when I first started the channel, my garden was covered in jumping spiders, and now it's a miracle if you even find one, you know. And sorry,
I think you're right. I mean, I've read a lot about it. We are in the middle of a documented extinction, and you know, insects are declining at a shocking rate. But
I had this discussion with, because when I went to the photography show, I was supposed to present there, but it was during the Queen's funeral, so it got cancelled. But I got to mingle behind the scenes because I had a speaker's pass, and I had to talk to a lot of more photographers, and a lot of them who deal with the environment, and they were like, they deal with, you know, big animals, foxes, birds, stuff like that. I said the insect population is declining a lot, and they said, is it? And the way I like to ask people, if you've noticed it, is this: when they travelled up from London to Birmingham, how many bugs was on your windscreen? And they said none.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, none. I have gone from here, I've gone to Skegness. I assume you know where Skegness is, Alan.
Yep.
It's like a 4-hour drive. And the last time we went, I had one bug hit the windscreen to wipe off. That was it. And, you know, 10 years ago, you'd have hundreds of them. In fact, you'd have to wash your car. The front of your car is just covered in bugs. And you know, you go for a decent 2-hour drive around the UK, and you've not got nothing in your windscreen at all.
That is very strange.
I can confer the same thing has happened in California. I've been up in the agricultural areas of California as an entomology student, and you know, you don't even notice, but you know, after they're gone, you definitely register.
Yeah. In fact, there's a scheme in the UK at the moment where they're counting the amount of insects they are, and I think it's, you print something out, or you get ordered like a piece of plastic that you stick onto the front of your car to measure how many bugs are hitting the car. And apparently there's not very many at all now. There really isn't. It's quite scary, considering that our food chain relies on the insects.
Yeah.
There's a group in Germany that has been monitoring, like you know, kilograms of insects per cubic hectare for decades in park areas that supposedly are not impacted by, you know, agricultural chemicals, etc. And they've reported, you know, 80% drops in yield, total yield of insect biomass.
Yeah.
So it's happening.
Ingolf, have you seen the same thing in the parks in Germany that you frequent?
No, but I agree with Stewart. The thing was the windscreen. When I 10 years ago, I'm driving to Berlin, 2 hours. Then I had to clean the windscreen, and now no bug is on the screen. This is terrible.
I must say I've never thought about that, but it's actually true here too. I mean, you just never see them.
You don't think about it till someone points it out.
Yeah.
You know, it's mean I'm going away in 3 weeks' time. I'm hoping to do a video, but don't guarantee it will be one. But I'd like to somehow make some sort of film about it, just about that particular part. But I've no idea how I will go about filming it, to be honest with you. You know, apart from just talking about it, I might just do a video about talking about it. And like the others have said in the chat, they've noticed the same thing, you know, and I'm sure it'll start getting a conversation on the go. But what do you do about it, though? That's the thing. I mean,
Well, there's a
Yeah.
big difference between, say, the Highlands of Scotland and England. There are still a reasonable number of insects up here, but in England, just nothing much. High intensity agriculture.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
The problem is all of the insects that do live in the north of Scotland are all trying to lay eggs in your nose. So they're not good insects.
Alan, can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
The subject about capturing insects. I
Yes.
saw a thing about using a black light and a sheet in the evening to attract bugs. They get on the sheet and you can sort of be selective as to what you
Yes.
want to get. Do you do anything like that?
I do. It's not my. I try to be selective with my net when I'm out, and will sweep specific plants and look for. I end up with so much bycatch though that it's not selective. But yes, I will go out. I use drop traps, funnel traps for beetles, and I will use sheets for flying things. I also will beat bushes for things using a sheet, so that I can just take the specimens that I'm going to use. It's just a pain, to be honest, and the extinction hadn't hit so bad down here that I really don't like being out with a bright light and a white sheet and around here, because I get covered in insects, hundreds of them.
You were asking the other day about the platypod.
Yes, I was, because of the fact that I saw Stewart using one in a video. Yeah.
Can I show you an adapter I found for the platypod?
Please.
Can you see this?
Yeah, it's a bicycle.
No one else can.
Those are bendy arms that screw into the platypod that are
That's
made by,
better.
and you can put the
Oh.
MF12s on the end of it.
What goes on the end of it?
You can put the MF12s. They've got a 20 screw on the end of it.
That's what I was that's what I was telling Stuart, that if I had a platypod, I'd use it indoors on my rig. That looks fantastic. Are they platypod bendy arms?
They are.
They look pretty
arms, man.
rigid.
Well, let's see if you can see it. I can bend one for you.
Do they have a quarter 20 at the end, or
Both ends. So you use a little double 20, quarter 20 adapter, and you can screw it into the ends out here. Or you can screw in the MF12s.
I like it.
Tubes or whatever you want.
Was that an expensive
$30 or something?
The base?
The platypod is what I bought it a while ago, so I don't know what it is currently, but it looks like this.
Is that the same one you've got, Stuart?
That's the older version. The new one's slightly got more holes in it, so it's lighter.
Lighter,
I'll see if I can pull mine out. Hold on.
That's what it looks like. Anyway, the bendy arms make it a lot more useful for the MF12s.
I made one out of I was lucky enough to find a piece of 1/4 inch aluminum plate in an old plotter that somebody had thrown away. There's
that one's the new version.
Oh yeah, well
yeah,
that's got a lot more air in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot lighter. It's just as strong, but it's a lot lighter. Yeah. What I would do, personally, Alan, I have the owner's contact details. I could forward them to you for you to send an email to them.
Oh, okay.
Just ask me if you want to get into not necessarily partnership, but some sort of deal where they could send you some extra stuff.
Yeah,
exchange for featuring it.
That's become pretty much standard operating procedure for me. Is I'll contact them anyway and let them know what I'm interested in. And
I have Skip's email address. He deals with a lot of the social media stuff. So if you do put any type of video together about it, email it to him, and he might put it on their social medias. But a Platypod, they use a lot of my reels for their social media as well. I like sharing it. They're a good company to work with. They're not They're not like some other companies. Let's
No.
just say that.
Well, they're small, relatively speaking, and you know, they're trying to get a foothold. So it's a good company to approach. I know that you say this very clearly in the video, but for anybody who doesn't watch the interview video, Stewart uses a lot of layover, but he is not one of their ambassadors, and don't say he is.
No, I'll start going off on a rant then. I do really start saying that.
I haven't been able to get Laowa to answer a single letter or email. I bet you I can get them to answer.
I bet you could.
That would be nice.
Give me a few days, because obviously they're in China and they don't answer. But I'll drop my contact a message. Right. Okay.
Fantastic. That sounds awesome. Well, I'm glad I mentioned that. Yeah, I've written to them.
I should have mentioned it earlier.
Well, several people have come to me over the years and asked if I would review the 2.5 to 5 times lens, or the 2 to 1 100mm lens. I got to review both of those this last summer when a friend lent them to me, but you know, I've tried to get Laowa to send me an old version of one or the other of them, and never did get a response. But I'm always on the lookout for
when this finishes. Can you just stop on for a few minutes afterwards?
Yeah.
Something to talk about. Just remind me, yeah. But what I'll do is, I'll tell you right now, right? They never answered any of my emails.
Oh, well, good.
The only reason I got in with Laowa is because Michael Waddell passed my details on to his contact.
No.
So I'll do the same, basically, yeah. So
all right,
I'll have a word with them.
Good. I missed an opportunity with Michael.
I'll ask them if they know of you. First of all, if they don't, I go, right, check this guy out, and I'll say it might be worth getting in to have a little chat with him. You know what I mean? And they are a good company to work for. They don't hassle you for the reviews. They don't hassle you for the video to be out. They just literally, here's a lens. Tell us when you're finished with it.
I will go on record saying that of all of the folks that I have worked with the possible exception of Light Glass Optics, which is also a fantastic company to work with, the Chinese companies have been by far the best as far as easy to work with, and you know, just on the spot. They're always there with support, and very, very easy to work with. And I really like some of them. Small Rig, it's a great company.
What's that, Small Rig, did you say?
Okay. Small Rig, yeah.
I wish I could get in with Small Rig. I really do.
I'll call someone for you.
Well, basically, I mean, as I don't know if it was in the video or not. I can't remember when we stopped recording, but I remember I told you Wednesday I put all of my money into the MacBook to fix, you know, the issues. Before I did that, I was looking at getting a Small Rig cage and handle for the main video camera, because I was told by people that are more experty at the video side of stuff than me that a heavier rig is more stable than a lighter rig. And I said to the wife, I said, maybe you should try getting a top handle and the cage and everything for it. And I'm teaching her how to do the false colors on a monitor at the moment, so she knows that the exposure is correct. Because it's like, I don't need to tell you how hassling editing a video is, but imagine having to correct the colors and the exposure as well. And I'm like, well, you know, if we can get it right in camera to begin with, it's a lot less hassle in the edit afterwards, you know.
Absolutely, and having a cage with the right lights and everything positioned well is going to make it so much easier for her. Yeah, I'll return the favor. I'll speak to my guy over at Small Rig. They ran out of clamps taking care of me. I had more super clamps attached to things. Now I've lost them all. But Stewart turned me on to these tiny little clamps. I forget the name of them now. With articulating tips on the end. For macro, they are the best.
They are really good, yeah.
They're really nice.
Can you say again what those little clamps are called? I missed it.
They're called super clamps.
Oh, super
They're
clamps.
super
Yeah.
clamps, but they have the end has a little bar and a swivel. So they don't rely on that. There you go. There's one of them.
See, if I stick it in front of my eye, you'll be able to see there these little arms, so you can
things.
actually move them around. Okay. Now,
They're smaller than regular super clamps too. Very nice.
Now, bear with me, because I've just dropped my earpiece again. I swear to God, my one ear is bigger than the other one. But depending on how quickly you want to order them will depend on how much you pay. Because I don't know if you know this, but this particular clamp is just a generic clamp from China. And what Andia do and what Platypod do is they buy these in bulk and then just print the name on it. So you can see that's an Andia clamp right there.
Yep.
If it's going to focus there. There you go, see it? So if you're not in a hurry, if you head over to AliExpress, you can buy these direct from China. You've got to wait, obviously, for delivery, but you can get them really, really cheap from AliExpress.
I actually got them on Amazon, the Anduo ones, the ones that you have for $22.
Yeah, the Andia ones are half the price of the Platypods. Yeah, they're half the price.
That's crazy.
I'll tell you what Platypods like to work with. I actually told them about it, and they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Because they wanted me to do a video for their social media. And I said to them, you do realise I don't use all Platypod stuff. You know, the super clamps are not Platypod stuff. They're like, yeah, don't worry about it, be all right.
Yeah, they're good about that. Most of the places, they realise that. Well, while we have Stewart and Rick here, does anybody have anything that they want to ask or say or comment on? It's such a pleasant change to have pros visiting that we should take advantage of it.
Question is, when did I become a pro?
Well, you get to let me claim that for you. We were talking, I think it was after we turned off the recorders the other day, but I've been trying to talk Stewart into coming over and spending a little time here in the south in the summertime when insects are pretty much, they come to you. You don't have to go look for them. And would anybody be interested in coming down and hanging out for a weekend if the two of us put on a workshop?
Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah, there's some hands from local.
It'll be fun till a jumper spider walks past and I get distracted.
Yeah.
Where's Stewart? Jumper spider's over there. He'll be over there somewhere.
There is a boardwalk that's not far from here. Goes from the highest point in our county down to the sea. A wooden boardwalk. I have seen more jumping spiders on that thing every time I go down there than you could shake a stick at. Hundreds of them. So. Yeah,
they do like their flat surfaces, particularly surfaces that have got sunshine going onto them. Because I'm assuming it's because the flies land on them. So obviously they know that's a good place to go.
Yeah, we've got the Audax.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you know, surprisingly, I'm a macro photographer. I don't know anything about insects. That's all. That's why often if you pay attention to my videos and you see me saying what an insect is I'm photographing, you'll notice it's done on B-roll, because when I'm out and about, I have absolutely no idea what it is. I'll go back and have to do the research and then put it on as a voiceover afterwards to make it look like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the whole secret right there.
Yeah.
As long as they think you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that is actually something that, all kidding aside, I would love to set that up. You know, get a handful of folks together and do an outdoor weekend of bug photography. That would be fun.
I was actually set up to do a workshop in Costa Rica, but then COVID hit. Everything got cancelled.
I wanted to. Who's that macro photographer based in Costa Rica? Very popular.
The lady.
No.
No.
No, it's a guy.
There's Andres Malign, is it?
Yes.
Is that his name? Yeah, that is actually who I was going to do the workshop with.
Yeah.
He asked me to come on board as another instructor, and I was like,
oh, good for
do
you.
I want to, because I've got to get on a plane? But then he convinced me to, but then the whole COVID thing went bang. That just went completely away. Yeah, but no, he's a good chap. We are friends. But there's a female photographer from Costa Rica as well that I follow on Instagram. I can't remember her name.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
She's very good.
Yeah. They just have such biodiversity down there.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
I'm very jealous because they literally step outside and they've got tree frogs, they've got ants, bullet ants. I step outside and I've got just crackheads in the local town. Honest to God, I mean, sometimes we go to our local nature reserve and the youths, they hang out there and smoke pot. And I'll be honest with you, 90% of them are perfectly okay. But then when you start getting all the gear out and they start watching you, you're sitting there and you're thinking, is doing this YouTube video worth getting jacked? You know what I mean? And,
well, I tell you, there have been times I've thought that it wasn't worth it. You've just got to be very careful. You've got to be very mindful. And I don't live in Los Angeles or New York, and some of these folks do. Mike, do you ever think twice about taking your camera outside?
All the time.
That just would never cross my mind.
Yeah. I had one female photographer email me once, and she said she loves the channel, she loves the macro photography, but she cannot go outside and do any photography because of the local youths that will literally go and rob the camera. And I thought, so that's a shame. You're not able to enjoy your hobby because of some low life scum who wanted next fix, you know. And I mean, this is what it's like I don't know what it's like in America, but I thought that's a good subject for a video. How to stay safe as a photographer, just a general photographer video. I contacted my local police force, said, I'm doing this video. Could we get together? We can get official advice from the police service to photographers as to what can you do if you suspect someone's going to try and rob you and all this stuff, and they weren't interested. It's like, not interested. I'm like, well, so basically photographers are going to stop in the house then, basically, to stay safe instead of going out and enjoying their hobby. And that's one thing. Tell you what,
Mike, jump in there. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I live in what you would say is a nicer section of LA. I live near the beach, near Los Angeles, LAX airport. And, things can change, like turn on a dime as far as what kind of neighborhood or whatever. But anywhere now, do you know that unless it's over $1,000, if you get anything ripped off, like you get mugged or they shoplift something or whatever, the police don't even bother. It's not even a crime anymore.
They don't bother.
So that kind of thing is rampant. It's not good.
Well,
we had
what we have to live with.
Yeah, we had one case here where someone had their iPhone stolen, and the tracking was turned on. So they logged into their account to find the tracking. They passed that information on to the police. And the police actually turned around and said, well, if you know where it is, go and get it.
Yeah.
That just wasn't interested.
I made a video 2 years ago called All the Rage. And it was about the experiences I had in the 3 months leading up to that video, where on 3 separate occasions, I had people just go off on me for having a camera that was pointed roughly in the direction of their house. And it was a difficult situation, and it made me wonder how we stay safe out there, and that's why I made the video. But fortunately, it's been quiet since.
Yeah, I have a box knife I have in my pocket. It's illegal to carry, but it's like I said to the missus, I would rather get done for carrying that than get all my shit robbed. Literally, because it's like we was talking the other day, Alan, where if a camera breaks, we can't afford to replace it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also have this tripod here. This is a new ear tripod. Plenty of tripods out there that you can turn into a monopod. And I'll tell you something, you smack someone around the kneecap with that, they're not chasing you anywhere with the
that'll do
camera
it.
gear. You know what I mean? I mean, that's absolutely solid. And I'll be honest with you, I have taken it off the tripod to use as a weapon on several occasions when I've been out and about.
Alan, I say scrap the workshop subject, and it's photographer as vigilante. That's what.
Yeah,
that's
vigilante photography.
Yeah, I'll do a video on weaponizing your macro gear.
How to repurpose your gear to cause harm.
Yeah.
No, but,
so
you know,
I mean, and I can't get done for carrying it because it's part of the tripod.
Oh, well, you would be encouraged to carry it here.
You know what I mean? But it's just like my personal opinion is. I mean, I've scraped and saved to get this gear. Why should some low life be allowed just to take it and then the coppers go, "Oh, we'll look into it." Yeah, that's all you get off them.
It really is. It is a problem, and it's a problem because the expectation is that we would use force to protect our belongings, which I wouldn't do. So it leaves you a bit of a disadvantage. Like my tripod is too light.
No, you have to be careful in this because it's easy to say something, but in any of these situations, you could look at it, is your life or harm to your body worth it to just say, you know what, take the freaking camera.
Exactly. And you don't know when they don't have a knife or a gun in their pocket.
Yeah. And you have, there's insurance, but I'm hearing stories of, and I use AirTags on as many things as I can. People track their stuff down and they get it back.
Yeah.
The AirTags are cheap enough.
You can get 100, 4 for like 100, I think, isn't it? Something like that on the AirTags. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in your car. I mean, it's besides your gear, the car itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is frightening. It's frightening the amount of non-interest from the actual police force itself to even look into stuff.
I don't think it's lack of interest. I think it's lack of manpower and the ubiquity of this kind of crime. I mean, it is so ever present. They just don't have if they chase down your camera, they're not chasing down that rapist or I don't know what I tried to interview the police for my video too, and they did not want to talk to me. But they don't want to talk to me anyway.
We have a problem in Massachusetts where anybody convicted of a crime and they're brought to court, that usually the officer doesn't show up who wrote the citation or apprehended the person, because the court just throws it out, and it kind of discourages the law enforcement from following through on stuff when their hard work is just going to be neglected and tossed out. You can't blame them, and that's why I've chosen to get a license to carry, because you can't depend on law enforcement to save you. It's usually a case of after the fact. Well, did you see him? Can you describe him? Well, first of all, they will tell you an eyewitness is the worst possible type of witness you could have, because the way the mind works, adding, subtracting, and whatnot. So, you'd have to be careful if you were concealed carry like they have in Massachusetts, displaying an instrument that could lead to the destruction of a person or personal property. And, I don't know where I'm actually going with this, but I agree with the fact that, your life is more important than an object that can be replaced, like a camera or anything. So just swallow it and let it go,
Yeah, I have to agree, but I also recognize that this is a potentially inflammatory subject. but I simply
It's almost as
feel
bad as
that-
killing insects for photography.
yeah, right, exactly. Well, had death threats for my insect behavior, but generally speaking, if I feel like a situation is in danger of becoming dangerous, I just leave. I mean, there isn't a photograph that I can think of that would be worth risking that, and it really is disruptive to your life. Even if nothing happens, it ruins your day. Being in a confrontation with a stranger is a very uncomfortable situation, no matter what happens. I just avoid it.
Yeah, I'll
I
try to
don't
avoid
think
everything if I can.
anybody's prepared to live with the fact that they may have used a firearm on an individual, you know, because that's something you have to live with for the rest of your life. Did I have to pull that trigger, you know, or what? But in this state, they say it's better when you pull a weapon, to discharge that weapon than to just point like you're using it for intimidation. You're better off to shoot. So I mean, you know, it's a very difficult thing, but you know, we've come out of the caves many decades and eons ago that we should be considered civilized and not have to worry about such things. But you know, as long as there's rampant drug use around and they don't have services to provide for people with mental illness, then these things we're going to have to live with every day, because they're just everyday occurrences, you know. So
well, unfortunately that is true, but if there's we aren't going to be able to solve the social woes, I'm afraid, but I do want everybody to stay safe. And that if there's any message that's worth taking from a conversation like this, is just think ahead. I try, when I'm going out by myself, I have an exit strategy in the event that I need to leave. I know where my car is, where my keys are, and I have an alternate way back to it. You just never know when you're going to run into something that makes you uncomfortable. And by far the better part of valor for me is just leaving the situation and letting it, not putting myself at risk.
Yeah.
Use your spidey senses.
I don't have any. Stewart's the Spider-Man.
Stewart will be okay.
If anybody, he should have the best spidey sense.
The problem is when I'm stuck into my work, it's a case of stuff everybody else. I'm doing what I want to do. It's the missus. It's the missus that's just always panicking, because she's like, someone's coming. I'm like, I don't care. They can go around the camera. As far as I'm concerned, if I'm filming, I'm filming. You know. And
yeah, it's a good point. I will lose hours out there with a camera doing macro. I mean, it just disappears. I've shut the world out.
It's just like, I mean, I've set the camera up on filming across a bridge where people can't get across. And what I've learned is, if you're out there doing macro, you're doing video, what I've learned is walk around the place like you own the place, because then no one interferes with you. And we've had people, dog walkers, they'll just stand there, wait for us to finish the take, and then they'll come back and say, morning, well, all right, morning, thank you for waiting. And they'll go past as happy as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, oh, I better stop filming because these want to come past, then they'll go past because they've got an opportunity. But so if you stand there and stand there like you own the bridge, they don't come near you, trust me.
I think it's one thing that you would find immediate and very striking about Alabama in particular, is you can be anywhere with your camera and everybody is going to be nice to you. Everybody that you smile at will smile back or nod and chat. The worst thing about it when I go out is being left alone long enough to actually do some photography, because there's always somebody who wants to chat, and that's not that way everywhere around
we-
here, but it is here in the
We
south.
get it a lot, don't we? When we're out filming, you'd have someone come up and they just start chatting to you, asking,
Yeah.
you know, what
It's
you're doing.
nice.
and
It's
we show them what we're doing, and they get very interested in it and everything
Yep.
they do. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, the one I got stopped on the most was when I did the review for the Irix lens, I think it was. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
reason we got stopped the most is because the wife wasn't with me doing half the film, and I actually had my son with me. Who was how old was he then? 12? Maybe about 12, 13. So he's running around with the EOS R on a Ronin S, filming everything I do. And that was catching some eyes, and everyone was stopping by going, you know, you got the one thing, we got the equipment and you got me talking to the camera, but then you got this 13-year-old running around with this Ronin doing all the filming, you know. We got stopped by literally everybody just asking us, oh, what are you doing and all that.
Yeah.
The best part was when we asked if it was from the BBC. That was the best one.
Hey, Alan, why don't you just wear some over-the-ear headphones like you're listening to music? People leave you alone.
There you go.
Yeah, not down here. They'll just come over and pull the earphone off your ear. Guys,
I do.
it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I am can't believe the time disappeared. Thank you so much for your help with the 3D printer thing. I will get back to you after I've done a bit more research and talk to Jan. Thank you, Stewart, for letting me talk to you this week on the video, which is going to come out today. It's out for Patreon already. And Stewart, I'll send you a link immediately as soon as I put it up. And Stewart and I are going to get together one more time, because we did not cover the juicy topics that we were planning to cover, because one of the two of us was just always talking. So we'll plan it the next time.
You're going to stick around for a couple of minutes afterwards? I need to have
I will. And Amy, can you stick around for just about 30 seconds?
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming. It was great fun, and I will see you on Tuesday if you're around. We'll plan on doing a little macro talk on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Other than that, take care and be well, and I will talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye all.
See you later. Take care, everybody.
See you later.
See you, Alan.
See you. Take care. Amy, the thing I wanted to ask you about concerns your role as a moderator. Could you take a bit of time and meet with the other moderators, or write a note to them explaining what the job involves? I've got a couple of people, Bud in particular, who is frustrated. He feels like he's not helping. He is. It's just that part of the deal with moderating is recognizing that, you know, I'm taking inputs from all kinds of different places, and I don't always respond to a moderator input to read a message or whatever. I just read the message, and I think that I don't know how to tell him quite what the flow is from your end, because I've never done it before. But when you do it, it's like seamless. I say stuff and it pops up as a message that this is the link, or this is where you go, or that's the kind of thing that is hugely helpful to me and lets me focus on what I'm trying to do. I'm bad about jumping ahead and answering questions, and maybe that's a role that we don't need as much, but I just don't feel like the folks that have signed up have got any guidance from me, and that's what I was hoping I could get you to give them.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm pretty new to it too, but I watch a bunch. Yeah, I've watched so many other streams. Like I watch a lot of aquarium live streams where there's like maybe 100 people in there, and there's a lot more to moderate. And basically all you're doing is if you see somebody getting out of line, you might like, delete a comment or something. So
Right.
sometimes spammer, or have links ready to drop, like, to your web page or anything else you might be talking about. I'd say it'd be helpful to know maybe if you had a topic ahead of time, links you wanted to be dropped.
Yeah.
So that way I
Okay.
didn't look for them as soon as you go, oh, he probably wants this. And so then I got to go look for it. But yeah.
The issue there is I'm not quite sure if a moderator will be there or who it will be, but that shouldn't matter. I can still, before time, I'll make myself a note. What I'll do is I'll put a file together for each live stream with the links I think I'll probably want to show, and I'll send them to you. I'll send them to whoever shows up as soon as I see you.
Yeah, it's usually only going to be, I'm only going to be there on Tuesdays unless I'm off of work, because Wednesday or the other one, the Thursday one, I'm at work, so I kind of can't do it when I'm at work. But
sure. No, I get that, but that would be great. I mean, because I think just the way you do it on Tuesdays is seamless and it's incredibly helpful. And if you could just share with Bud primarily what those tactics are, and then I'll make a point of letting you know any links in advance. So he usually comes on Tuesdays too, so that might be a good time to talk to him.
I think I might have his email still from before, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you if you don't have it.
So as far as the questions, so like last Tuesday, you did seem to keep up with the questions as they were asking them.
Yeah.
So do you want to get the questions directly from the person asking, or would you like us to repeat the questions for you?
Well, the thing is, when I'm on it, if I'm looking at the screen, then I can usually catch them all. It's when on Thursday, for example, for 20 minutes, I was not looking at the screen because I was doing a what's in the bag thing. And by the time I came back to the screen, I had to go all the way back and look for the questions. So that would be when it would be most helpful, when I'm doing a demo or something like that and can't see the screen. Having them repeated helps. But really, it's not a big deal either way. If we had 500 people on there, we would probably do a different format. But as it is, I don't think people have an issue with a question taking a while to answer.
Yeah, if there was 500 people in there, it'd be harder to keep up with the questions, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
can I interject?
Yes, please.
When I'm doing live streams for Laura, what they do is they have someone go through the comments on YouTube, and then they'll ping me the actual questions. So all I've got on my particular phone is just the questions that need answering. It filters out all the fluff.
Right.
That might be something you might want to look at doing.
Well, that is exactly what we would do if the volume got any greater, then we would do that. Then my moderators would filter the questions for sure. But I can answer all the questions right now, and we don't generally have anybody disruptive except James, Joseph.
No, he's.
And I just tell him at the beginning that the first time he picks a fight with somebody, he's out of there, and he gets it. So
that's all.
he's a great guy, boy. He's smart too. Great. All right. Well, thanks so much, Amy. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on Tuesday.
All right. See you later.
All righty. Take care. Stewart, did you want to meet in private?
Yeah, it needs to be a private meeting.
Okay, then I'll hey Patrick, what's up? Good to see you. You're muted, I think.
I'm really sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We just wrapped up the stream. I mean the Zoom, and getting ready to run and meet with Stewart. But I just wanted to say hi when I saw you in there. So did you need me for something, Patrick?
No, I was just looking.
Okay,
So.
very good. Well, I'm going to run on, and I'll see you next time, and I'm sure I'll be in touch with you before then. So take care.
Okay, have a nice day. Bye bye.
All righty. I will, Stuart, I'll start a separate meeting.
Okay.
Okay, we'll close this one down. Thanks, guys. Take care, everybody.